Hey everybody, thank you again for joining us. What we're doing in these videos is explaining to Amazon sellers all over the world the significance of the new Business Solutions Agreement. And if you're unaware, that is your contract with Amazon. There are many, many sellers around the world, most sellers in fact, and also many consultants around the world who don't even know that this contract exists. It is not the terms of service, it is not the participation agreement. Your contract with Amazon is the Business Solutions Agreement, and there are major changes coming on down. And David Miller and I, who's one of our managing attorneys when it comes to plans of action and IP complaints, are going to be talking about paragraph 11 and paragraph 14. So, David, why are we talking about paragraph 11 and 14 together?
So the interesting part, specifically section 14, is the entire paragraph was taken out. So that kind of begs the question, why would they remove an entire section? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's the only paragraph they removed in full.
So Amazon is very adept at changing their contracts constantly in a way that protects Amazon from liability. So as we're going through it paragraph by paragraph and the agreement as a whole, we saw the entire thing was crossed, and there's no way Amazon was giving up an entire paragraph of anything. Instead, they seem to have consolidated it. So let's start with what was crossed out in 14, and then we'll go back to how it's been beefed up in paragraph 11.
Sure. Well, it's the entire paragraph or the entire section, but we'll go through it. So the first part of it is that you will not disclose any Amazon transaction information. I don't see in here where it says Amazon what transaction information means. To me, that can mean pretty much anything from making a sale to any sort of, I guess, confidential information. So it's kind of a wide range of what that can mean.
It's super wide. We've seen this issue come up at the arbitrations where you have a seller who Amazon's not paying or they've suspended, they release that information to somebody else or to an employee or a staff member or a consultant out there who doesn't have attorney-client confidentiality. And then Amazon uses that later on to sort of justify their conduct that says that, hey, you weren't supposed to reveal how we do business, and you did. You gave it to a launch company. You gave it to a consultant. And the agreement did say that you cannot do that. And it also then they'll look for the correspondence because further down in paragraph 14 it talks about disparaging communications. So these are some of the ways that Amazon will often fish for reasons to have suspended you or fish for reasons to have kept your money, and they'll talk about the provisions in paragraph 14 to use it to harm a seller after they've already sort of taken away your inventory, withheld your money, kicked you off the platform, and all sorts of things like that. So that's kind of the substance of paragraph 14. Now we're going to talk about how Amazon has sort of rebuilt in its own protections back at paragraph 11.
So for paragraph 11, it's all about confidentiality, and they add personal data into the subject line. They also, again, remove Amazon transaction information. I guess they did not like that term. I don't know if something went down with the arbitrations or why it was specifically removed.
We are 1,000% confident that we are the cause for some of these changes. Some are good for sellers. Some give us a lot more wiggle room in terms of plans of action. Others are tightening up loopholes that we've been using for years against Amazon. So they've taken the transaction confidentiality out of 14 and stuck it into paragraph 11, where you're still not supposed to reveal what goes on between you and Amazon. Said Amazon cannot prevent you from talking to your accountant about it. They can't prevent you from talking to people within your entity, which is a great reason to use corporations for Amazon accounts. And they certainly cannot come down on you for revealing it to your lawyer. So the confidentiality still exists, only it's been shifted over to paragraph 11.
Yeah, and one thing to add to that, they actually add a section, part in here, I forget if it's under D or E, but also that you can reveal it to the government, which I don't think was in the last one. So they made sure to include that as well.
Yeah, what they're trying to do, we think this is part of the whole antitrust issue that Amazon faced a few months ago, and where Amazon voluntarily released sellers from the obligation that you can't sell your products any place else cheaper than you sell on Amazon, which is antitrust.
Exactly.
But before the government really got to them, they changed the policy on their own. And we believe that change and that fear of Amazon that the government was going to come after them sparked some of the changes to paragraph 11.
Yeah, I find this entire section pretty funny because basically they're saying you have to be careful with our sensitive info, with Amazon's sensitive info. And the antitrust investigation was launched that same day that they announced they were going to make these changes because Amazon was accused of reviewing sensitive info in order to eliminate competition.
And the reality is, sellers don't have much information from Amazon. If you're an Amazon vendor, you don't find out about the intellectual property right complaints, the counterfeit complaints that Amazon receives and keeps track of. You don't find out about a lot of the complaints that Amazon receives. In fact, one of the banes of an Amazon seller's existence is that they'll accuse you of inauthentic without ever sending you a copy of what the consumer sent to Amazon or a copy of the complaint a brand sent to Amazon. And what's funny is that paragraph 11 is requiring sellers to keep information secret that sellers rarely have.
True. And at least now it's only, I think the obligation is only for the terms of the agreement and then 5 years until you're, I guess, no longer selling on Amazon, until either they terminate the agreement or you do. Before, I believe it looked like it was absolute.
Now, what's also odd about this is in paragraph 3 of the new business solutions agreement, Amazon says that all of their obligations end. They terminate, that's it, you're done. But as a seller, you should keep fulfilling orders, even though Amazon may not release your money. And in this paragraph, it conflicts with paragraph 3 because it says that obligations continue 5 years out. Now, it's also unilateral, which leads to another discussion about unconscionability, which is a way of attacking this contract for being just so terribly unfair.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting. It's something you can use, I think, in arbitrations that Section 11 conflicts with Section 3, just as far as obligations go. And it's kind of ridiculous. I think we spoke about Section 3 yesterday, that you as a seller would have to continue fulfilling orders, and then your risk would go up, your losses would increase. So it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely ludicrous. If you're suspended and you're confident Amazon is not going to amicably reinstate you, stop delivering products. Stop increasing how much money you're owed and stop putting free money in Amazon's pocket for selling your products, but not turning the money over to you. Okay, so these are some of the issues in paragraph 11. These are some of the issues from the withdrawal of paragraph 14. And David and myself and Rob Siegel and Travis and our entire team is working very hard to go through the entire new business solutions agreement to update sellers paragraph by paragraph, sometimes line by line, so that you know what your obligations are. And we're also trying to see the broad loopholes that Amazon is creating, maybe unintentionally, that we can use to write even better plans of action and appeals. So David, thank you for helping me explain paragraph 11 and paragraph 14 to sellers. And sellers out there, please stay tuned and watch these videos. And you need to know this. You need to know that it is impossible to write a great plan of action or a great appeal or a great Bezos escalation letter if you don't know this contract. This contract is your relationship with Amazon. And so if you're hiring someone and they cannot interpret a contract, you are hiring the wrong people.